Yes, sir.
So I'm starting now about the inner class. Inner class, the concept of inner class is a facility in Java provided by the Java. And inner class is basically the nesting of one class within another class. You can say that the purpose of nested classes is to group classes that belong together, which makes your code more readable and maintainable. To access the inner class, create an object of the outer class and then create an object of the inner class. So, what is the purpose of inner class? You can, within the outer class, you can collect similar type of classes in the form of inner class. And what is the way to implement that? First of all, you will have to create an object of the outer class, and then you will create the object for the inner class. And inner class is the nesting of classes. A class within a class is known as inner class. How to implement the concept of inner classes in Java? For that, I have taken an example. I have made a class. The name of the class is out class. Outer class meaning is outer class. Uh, Variable t is declared there of type integer. It means that will take 4 bytes of storage. We have assigned the value 20. Then within this out class, there is an inner class. The name of the inner class is in class. Okay. And within this in class, I have declared a variable w of type integer. Again, it's taking 4 bytes of storage and assigned the value 25. Now, there is another class, my class, in which we will create the object of outer class and inner class. Whenever you will execute, you will write this code, this snippet in the notepad. The name of the file will be myclass.java. At the time of execution, the control will, if there is no error, the control will move to this public static void main. This will be the first statement to be executed, and in this and the name of the file will be myclass.java. Here we are creating an object outer of outer class. What is the name of the outer class? Out class. So this is the object outer, assignment operator, new out class. Through this, the memory for this object outer will be allocated. Now, as you are, it's evident that from the this screen that within the outer class you have made one inner class. So then you will create an object for the inner class. In this way, out class means outer class dot inner class, inner assignment operator, outer dot new in class. In this way, you will allocate the memory for the inner class object. Now, system.out.println, you are accessing the value of inner class as well as outer class through system.out.println, and here you can access the variable of inner class by using the name, by referring the name of the object of inner class inner.w plus outer.t, where the value is 20 and the value of w is 25. What will be the output? The output will be 45. So with this example, it's clear that how you can embed a inner class within an outer class, and how to create the object of the outer class and inner class in the main function, and how you can access the variable or methods of outer class and inner class in main function. Is it clear to everybody? Is it clear to everybody? Any confusion? Hello,
No, sir.
Bhavna, it's clear? Now,
Yes, sir.
there are different variants of inner classes. Private inner class. What is this private inner class? As you know that there is a regular class. An inner class can be private or protected. If you don't want outside objects to access the inner class, declare the class as private. Right? Right now, I'm not talking about the protected mode because protected mode will be used in the concept of inheritance. So, what is the private inner class? If any class within a outer class is private, then that inner class will be known as private inner class. So, how to implement the concept of private inner class? Again, there is an example. We have created a class, outer class. Out the name of the outer class is out class, and please remember that always whenever I am giving the name, I am using the Hungarian notation. If it consists of two words, first character of every word is in caps. Again, declaring a variable t and assigning the value 20. There is an inner class. The name of the inner class is in class. Again, w. This is the variable scope of this is up to in class. The of type integer assigning the value 25. My class.java whenever execute, this will be the first statement. Again, I have created the object of outer class and inner class. Right here, system.out.println inner.w plus outer.w. What will be the output? Anyone? Anyone? What will be the output? Bhavna, Jairam, Utkarsh, no responses. Hello, Tushar, Shaurya, what will be the output? Here, output will not be produced because there will be an error. Why there is an error? Because this class, inner class is private. It means that you cannot access this in class outside of this class. Right? Since the W is private, so this W cannot be accessed outside this class. So you are accessing this inner object here. When you will create, at the time when you create an object of this inner class, at that time error will occur because the scope of this inner class is outside the outer class. Okay, this is not in the scope here. That's why whenever you will execute it, compile it, it will produce an error that inner class is a private and that is accessible only to the class out class. So no output will be produced, rather it will produce an error, right?
Yes, sir.
So another example that is known as static inner class. If any inner class is declaring as a static, that will be known as static inner class. And inner class can also be static, which means that you can access it without creating an object of the outer class. I told you that what are the usage of static keyword in Java. Two uses are there. One is if in a class any variable is of type static, it means that will be the common memory will be allocated for that static variable for all the objects, and whenever you will access that particular variable, static variable, you will not refer that variable with any object, because static is common, and if any variable in a static class is uh, static, it means that will not be referred by any object, that is common to all the objects. That is one use. Another one use is that if you are prefixing static keyword with any method, it means that you are invoking that method without creating any object. It means that if inner class is of nature static in an outer class, it means that you can access that inner class without creating an object of the outer class. Here, again I am repeating that you can access it without creating an object of the outer class. Again I am taking the example. Here again I have created a class named as out class, where variable t is declared of type integer, assigned the value 20. Static class in class inner class, where w is of type integer, assign the value 25. Now another class, my class, is there, in which main function is there. If there is no error, whenever you will execute, this will be the first statement. Here you are creating object of static inner class, right? You are not creating any object of outer class here, right? You are only creating the instance of the inner class inner, which is out class dot in class inner new out class dot in class. System dot out dot println inner dot w. What will be the output? Anyone? 25. So here what is the use? If in outer class any inner class is of type static, so there is no need to create any object for the outer class. So this is another variant. Your inner class may be private, your inner class can be static. Now let's see with the help of another example, that is access outer class from the inner class. This is another utility where you can access the variables and methods of outer class to the inner class. What is the application here? How to access the variables and methods of outer class from the inner class. So here let's understand what is the advantage. Advantage is that they can access attributes and methods of the outer class. Here we have created a outer class. The name of that outer class is out class, in which there is a variable t of type integer. Class, there is an inner class in which there is a method my in method. This method is public, because you will have to make it public, because through this method you are accessing the variables and methods of outer class. That's why you have taken this my int method as public, because what is the purpose here in this example? The purpose is to access the variables and methods of outer class. Although method is not there in this class, only I have taken variable. The variable is t. Again, whenever you will execute this program, control will go to this. Here you are creating an object outer of outer class. Then, and here the memory will be allocated. Here you are creating an object inner of inner class. Whenever you will create any object of inner class, always you will write, because inner class is embedded within the outer class, so you will refer outer class dot inner class dot, then object name is equal to outer dot new in class. Here system.out.println inner my int method. Here in this println method, another utility is that within the println method you can call any method also, and here I am calling this method my in method. Again I am using Hungarian notation with the function. Here it consists of three words where my, in and method. M is the first letter of first word is in small, first letter of second word is in caps I, and this is image caps. So again, while giving name to any method, I am using this Hungarian notation. This method will be called and it will go to the control will go to this and return t, and the value of t will be printed. So here you are saying that this t is a part of outer class, variable instance variable of outer class, but through inner class, inner class object, we are accessing the value of this outer class variable. So this is also another example, another application of the inner class. Now, these are the three variants of the inner classes. Now, very important topic. That topic is inheritance. First of all, in Python also, you have studied the concept of inheritance. What is the inheritance? The process where one class acquires the properties. If we are talking about the properties of a class, it means that it's the variables of a class and methods of a class. So to process where one class acquires the properties of another class, this process is known as inheritance. There will be a superclass and then subclass, and if any method and variables are defined in the superclass, then subclass will inherit all the properties, means variables and methods into the subclass. The information is made manageable in a hierarchical order. It means that always in the inheritance, the information is made manageable in a hierarchical order. It means tree-like structure order. What is the subclass? The class which inherits the properties of others is known as subclass. And the class whose properties are inherited is known as superclass. What is the use of in object-oriented programming? What is the use of inheritance? So, the most important aspect of object-oriented programming is reusability of code. If I talk about the reusability, it means that you define anything once and you can use for many times. So, through inheritance, we implement the concept of reusability of code. It means that if we have defined methods into any class, superclass, then that method can be reused in the subclass. Automatically, the copy of that subclass will, that method or variable will inherit to the subclass, right? That's why inheritance is used. In the previous classes, I told you that there are two types of polymorphism in Java. One is compile time polymorphism and another one is runtime polymorphism. For that, two terms are there, method overloading and method overriding. In method overloading, I told you that in a program where there are more than one methods with different number of arguments, with different data type, with different return type, that is method overloading. So at the execution time, which particular method within a program will be called, that will be known at the compile time by matching the data type. That's why that is known as static binding or compile time binding, right? But there is a method overriding. Method overriding means if in a program there are more than one method with the same name, with the same number of arguments, with the same data type, with same return type, in that case, what will happen? Because data types are same, number of arguments are same, method name is same, return type is same, then how will you find out that which one method is called at the runtime? Such property is known as method overriding, and method overriding is implemented. Method overriding is implemented through inheritance. Without using the concept of inheritance, method overriding is not right. So, in the previous class, you studied about the how to override the two-string method. How to override the two-string method. I told you that there is a default package that is java.lang. You don't import that, automatically that imported, and through that system.out.println method is called. And I told you that if you want to print anything in your own way, for that use the you can override the system.out.println method, because whenever you are printing the value of any object at that time, system.out.println method automatically invokes the toString method. But you can override the toString method also. So this method overriding. Through method overriding property, you implement the runtime polymorphism in Java. Runtime polymorphism in Java, and that is also known as runtime binding. So always in the examination, the question is asked, what is the difference between the static binding and dynamic binding? Static binding is always done. It means that data type checking that will be done as compile time. That is also known as compile time binding, and that is implemented through method overloading. Runtime binding or dynamic binding or runtime polymorphism is implemented through method overriding in Java. So these two concepts you must know. What is the difference between method overloading and method overriding? What is the dynamic typing? What is the dynamic binding? What is the static binding? What is the runtime polymorphism? What is the difference between runtime polymorphism and compile time polymorphism? Right? So I think these things are clear to all of you. Now, how to implement the concept of inheritance? The concept of inheritance, there is a class superclass. So you will write class superclass name, and in this is the syntax. In this, you will define the instance variables and methods of the superclass. Now, here you are making a subclass. The name of that subclass is sub, and using this extends keyword, you inherit the properties of and methods of superclass into the subclass. Whenever I am talking about the inherit the methods and variables, it means that this sub will have the copy of all the methods and variables of superclass into subclass. It means that all the methods and variables are accessible within this subclass. And I told you that the most important aspect is the reusability of code. If you are going to compare between the Python and Java, so and if I say that which one is the most much more strong object-oriented programming language. So if I talk in terms of inheritance, then reusability of code, I can say that Python is a much stronger programming language than Java. Why? Because there in Python, everything is in terms of classes, and classes are stored into the packages. For example, if you have to create a bar chart, right? If you will write the code for the creating the bar chart in Java, it will take 5,000, 6,000 lines of code. But in Python, within the 3 lines, you can create a very beautiful bar chart or any curve or any graph in Python. How it is possible? Because the functions, the methods for that bar chart, that curve, sine curve, cos curve, all are defined within the packages. And I told you that what is the package? Package is the collection of similar type of classes. So once the methods are defined into those classes and those classes are resides into the packages, you are simply importing that, and by referring the class name and method name, you are implementing that. And within a 3 lines, you can draw a very beautiful bar chart or curve or graph. Sorry. So we can say that if as far as inheritance, reusability of code is concerned, and the reusability of code is always implemented through inheritance, Python is always a better object-oriented programming language than Java. It's clear to all of you. So many questions raised in this. One is dynamic typing, static typing, runtime polymorphism, compile time polymorphism. What is runtime polymorphism? What is compile time polymorphism? What is the purpose of inheritance? What is inheritance? Right? So, other concept, object-oriented programming language and object-based programming. In the practical Viva, always they ask what is the difference between the object-oriented programming language and object-based programming language. There is a difference in the runtime polymorphism. Object-based languages do not support the concept of runtime polymorphism. It means the concept of inheritance is there, and implementation of runtime polymorphism is not possible without the inheritance. So in object-based programming language, there is a concept of object and classes, but runtime polymorphism is not there. So all programming language, object class-based programming language without the concept of inheritance is known as runtime polymorphism, is known as object-based programming language. While object-oriented programming languages, in the previous classes, I told you that there are different paradigms of object-oriented programming language in which data encapsulation, in which data abstraction, in which runtime polymorphism, then inheritance, through inheritance, how you can implement the runtime polymorphism. All these are properties of object-oriented programming language. So you must know what is the difference between the object-based programming language and object-oriented programming language, right? So object-based programming languages are not supporting the concept of inheritance, while runtime polymorphism is not possible. Please do remember, runtime polymorphism is not possible without the concept of inheritance. I think it's clear to all of you. Now, what are the types of inheritance? There are different types of inheritance: single level inheritance, multiple level inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. If you are going to categorize the concept of inheritance, you can categorize into 5 subcategories, that is single level inheritance, then multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. What is single level inheritance? In a single level inheritance, there will be a superclass and a subclass. Like this. There is a superclass and subclass, and through extend keyword you will inherit all the properties and methods of the superclass into the subclass. So this is the single level inheritance. Then multi-level inheritance. Third one is multi-level inheritance. If there are superclass, one superclass, then there is a subclass, and from that subclass you are creating another subclass. So for the second subclass, first subclass will be a superclass, and the third subclass, second subclass will inherit all the property of the superclass as well as the property of subclass, first subclass. So that is the multi-level inheritance. Then hierarchical structure, which is also known as is a relationship. Hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance is also known as is a relationship. What is this is a relationship hierarchical inheritance? Hierarchical inheritance means the inheritance in a tree-like structure way. Means there is a superclass and you are making two subclasses from that superclass. And the methods and properties of superclass are inherited into two subclasses. So if a hierarchical structure, tree-like structure is there while you are implementing the concept of inheritance, that is known as hierarchical inheritance, and this type of hierarchical inheritance is also known as is a relationship. Then hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance is the combination of any one single inheritance, then hierarchical inheritance, right? Combination of any one is known as hybrid inheritance. Multiple inheritance, which is at the second position, but I am discussing this at the last because it's a very important. Multiple inheritance in Java. What is the multiple inheritance? If there are more than one superclasses in your program. If there are more than one superclasses in a program and there is only one subclass. If you are inheriting the methods and variables of more than one superclasses into one subclass, such type of inheritance is known as multiple inheritance. And please do remember that Java do not support the concept of multiple inheritance. Again, I am repeating, Java do not support the concept of multiple inheritance, but you can implement the concept of multiple inheritance through interfaces. Through interface. Now question arises, what is the interface? How it is different than inheritance? Interfaces, because if you are using the events driven, you are writing the event driven program where the listeners are there. Listeners are basically interfaces, and suppose any event is having what? Event and action, right? Suppose button hai, button mein what are the different actions? What are the events? Single click, double click, scroll down, scroll up. These are the various events, right? Then action. Action is what? Press. That is the action. So all these things, to implement all these things in an event-driven program, you will implement through listeners. And listeners are listeners. And listeners are basically interfaces. So what is interface? Interface is the collection of declaration of methods, collection of declaration of methods and values. That is known as interface. So I will discuss the concept of interface in a subsequent chapters. But right now I am discussing about the inheritance and I am discussing about the multiple inheritance. I am repeating again that if there are more than one superclasses in your program and you can inherit the methods and variables from more than one superclasses into one subclass, that is known as multiple inheritance, and Java do not support the concept of multiple inheritance. If you want to implement multiple inheritance in Java, always you will implement through the concept of interfaces. So there is another concept that is known as hybrid inheritance. What is the hybrid inheritance? In the hybrid inheritance, I told you that there are various combinations of inheritance. So I am taking one example. Just visualize that example. Suppose there is a parent class, grandparent class, right? And from the grandparent, that is the superclass, and you are making two subclasses from that grandparent, that is parent 1 and parent 2. So parent 1 subclass and parent 2 subclass will inherit all the properties and methods from the superclass grandparent, right? That is which type of inheritance? That is hierarchical inheritance. There is one superclass and many subclasses. Now, from parent 1 and parent 2, you are inheriting another, making another subclass, that is child. So, child will inherit all the methods and properties of grandparent and parent 1 into the child, or grandparent and parent 2 into child. So, parent 1 and parent 2 are the superclasses and child is a subclass, then multiple inheritance. So in one inheritance, you are amalgamating the concept of hierarchical inheritance as well as multiple inheritance. So that is the example of hybrid inheritance. That is the example of hybrid inheritance. So these are the various type of inheritance. It's clear to everybody? Anyone? Okay. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Tushar?
Yes, sir.
It's clear to everybody?
Yes,
So
sir.
many questions are
Yes, sir.
raised out of this chapter. Now, how to implement the concept of single level inheritance? What is a single level inheritance? There is a parent class and then subclass. So here we have created a class. The name of that class is cal. Here one instance variable C is declared of type integer. This and the why we have not assigned any value to this variable, because that value will come from addition or multiplication or subtraction. This example is doing addition, subtraction and multiplication of two values. So there is a superclass cal in which you have declared a variable C of type integer. There is a method public void add. Two variables are passed, int a and b. C a plus b you have defined and you are printing the value of C. Another method is subtraction. Int a, C is equal to a minus b. You are printing the difference of a and b. Then you are making a subclass here. You are making a subclass here. MyCal, this is the subclass which is extending, which is inheriting the properties of from the this cal. So what are the properties? Where instance variable C and two methods, addition and subtraction. It means that this MyCal subclass is having one additional method, that is multiplication, right? So this is having, this MyCal subclass is having the multiplication method, but this will also have the copy of these two methods, addition and subtraction, as well as the copy of C, A and B. Right? So what is the in inheritance? The subclass will have the properties of superclass as well as some additional functionality of its own also. Right? So that thing I want to say, I want to represent here that in superclass I have made two methods, addition and subtraction, and this is the part of the superclass. In subclass mycal, I am defining another method, multiplication, and this mycal will also inherit, will have the copy of addition and subtraction method. It means this addition and subtraction method will be accessed in this my calendar subclass. Now, in this mycal subclass, the name of the program will be mycal.java. The execution will start from this. This will be the first statement to be executed. Public static void main. Execution will start. Here two variables I am taking, x, y. X is defined, assigned the value 30. Y is defined with the value 40. Here, how to access the methods of superclass? For that, I have created an object of subclass. The name of the subclass is mycal. D is an object of the subclass. To this, by using this method, we have created the memory of this for this object. Right? So this the values of for this subclass will be assigned with memory will be allocated. Now with the subclass object you can call method d.add. Why you can call? Because this is inherited into the subclass. So d.add xy. What is the value of x? 30. Value of y 40. There is a call by value. Right? The memory will be allocated for x, value will be allocated for y, then call by value you are passing the arguments. A, another memory will be allocated, for B another memory will be allocated, and the value will be copied 30, B will contain 40, C is 70. Right? Here again subtraction method is called. Okay. Again, since this subtraction method is the part of this subclass, so you can access this with this D subclass object d.sub xy, again 30 and 40. Here 30 minus 40 C minus 10, the value will be minus 10 here. Now multiplication method you are calling. This is in itself in mycal subclass. Here you are multiplying 30 into 40, 1200. 1200 will be printed over here. Right? It's clear to everybody? Now, it's a very important concept, that is the super keyword. In the examination, they ask, what is the super keyword? The super keyword is similar to the this keyword. I told you that what is the this keyword in Java. In the previous class, I told you that this is a reference which contains the reference of current executing object. In C++, I told you that this pointer is a variable which contains the address of current executing object. Since Java do not support the concept of pointer, it supports the concept of references. So this reference contains the reference of current executing object. The super keyword is similar to the this keyword. And what are the scenarios where the super keywords are used? First, it is used to differentiate the members of the superclass from the members of the subclass. If you want to differentiate between the members of superclass from the members of subclass, then, and if they have the same name, right? The members of the superclass and members of the subclass have the same name, but how to differentiate whether this is super or subclass? then by using the super keyword, you can access the member of superclass. Now, it is used to invoke the superclass constructor from the subclass. From the subclass, if you want to invoke the constructor of the superclass, for that super keyword is used. So, in the examination, definitely there will be a question: what is the super keyword? What are the different usage of super keyword? So I told you that to invoke the superclass constructor from the subclass. Another one is to differentiate the number of superclasses from the member of subclass. In the same way, what is the use of final keyword? There are two uses. Through final keyword, you can you define the constant values. Another one is if there is a superclass and subclass, if subclass is final, then you can stop the inheritance. These are the two uses of final keywords. In the same way, what are the usage of static keywords? Two uses. One is class variable, static variables, and another one is to invoking the function without creating any object. So three questions are framed over here, right? Now a subclass inherits all the members. As you know, if I'm talking about the what are the members that can subclass can inherit attributes, subclass can attribute methods, subclass can inherit the nested classes from its superclass. But constructors are not members. Do remember this thing. This is very important concept that constructors are not members. Members are what? Members of superclasses are fields, methods, and nested classes, right? And they are inherited to the subclasses. But constructors are not members, so they are not inherited by subclasses. Please do remember this thing. This is very important point while writing your code. But the constructor of the superclass can be invoked from the subclass. But the constructor of the superclass can be invoked from the subclass using the super keyword. Using the super keyword. Again, those people who were absent in the previous class, I told you that what is the constructor? Constructor is used to initialize the values of an object, right? Through constructors, you initialize the values of variables of a class. At the time of creation of an object, the constructor will be called. There are two types of constructors. One is default constructor, implicit constructor. Another one is explicit constructor. This is different from method. How this is different from method? The constructor name will be same as the class name. Another one is that constructor do not return any value, right? And you can overload. You can overload the methods in the same manner. You can overload the constructors also. And always the order of execution of constructors are from top to bottom in Java, right? It's clear to everybody? मैंने यहाँ पर क्या बताया? मैंने ये बताया कि सब क्लास हमेशा इनहेरिट क्या करता है? एट्रीब्यूट करता है, मेथड करता है, नेस्टेड क्लासेस करता है. लेकिन कंस्ट्रक्टर्स को आप मेंबर नहीं कह सकते. दे आर नॉट इनहेरिटेड बाय द सब क्लासेस. लेकिन सब क्लास के थ्रू सुपर क्लास कंस्ट्रक्टर को आप कॉल कर सकते हैं. वो कैसे कॉल करेंगे? बाय यूजिंग द सुपर कीवर्ड. ये सबको क्लियर है?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's understand this concept with an example. Here, there is a class, superclass, in which you are declaring a variable num of type integer. You are defining a method. The name of that method is display, and the access modifier is public. It means that this is accessible outside the class also. And if you are inheriting any method, then you will have to make it public. Now another, there is a subclass, public class, subclass, extend superclass. Subclass is the name of this subclass which is inheriting the properties of superclass. Int num10, a num variable is being defined with the value 10. There is another method void display. So here the name of the method is same in superclass and subclass. It means this is method overriding. It means that this is the method overriding. In a superclass there is a method display. In subclass there is a method display. Name is same. There is no parameter, same. They have same return type void, right? So this is the example of method overriding. You are overriding the method of the superclass in the subclass. In the same way, you are overriding through the variable number with the 10 values of the superclass variable number which was having the value 20. Now here you are again, this is additional method, my method, public void my method. This is an additional method where you are creating an object of the subclass, sub of the subclass, and you are calling the method display, sub dot display. So here, which one method will be called? This one will be called, because that is overridden. This method is, copy of this method is into the subclass also, but you are calling through the calling here. This is this display. This will be the output. This is the display method of subclass. Now super dot display. This is the use of super. By using the super keyword, you are calling the method of superclass. Now what will be the output? The output will be, this is the display method of superclass. Now system.out.println sub dot num. Now sub dot num. What it will be printed? It will print the value 10. Here super dot num. What it will print? It will print the value 20. Here superclass variable value is 20. So whenever you will execute, control will go to this. You are creating an object obj of type subclass. Now you are calling my method obj.myMethod, and then in this method again you are calling an object of subclass and you are writing sub.display, super.display. These are the usage of super. By using the super keyword, you can call the methods and variables of super. So in a simple way, you can illustrate that if there is a superclass, then subclass. If you are overriding the methods of superclasses into the subclasses, then you create the object of the subclass, and through that subclass object you can call the methods of subclasses and variables of subclasses. If you want, through the object of the subclass, if you want to call the methods of superclass and variables of superclass, then you will have to use the super keyword. By using the super keyword, you can call. Why there is a need of using the super keyword? Because you are overriding those methods and variables into the subclass. It is clear to all of you? Anyone? Any confusion? Surya, Tushar, Jairam, Bhavna, Utkarsh.
Clear, sir, clear.
Yes, sir.
Now, how to invoke the superclass constructor? How to invoke the superclass constructor? So here we have make a superclass, right? Int age superclass constructor is having the same name as the class. Int a, this dot a, this is a this reference. public void, there is a method get A, where you are printing the. This is a superclass in which one constructor is there, one method is defined. Public class sub, you are making a subclass sub, which is extending, inheriting the variables and methods of superclass. Here, there is a constructor, subclass constructor, sub. Public static. So whenever you will execute this program, always the control will go to this main method. Here, you are calling, you are creating an object of sub. So whenever you will create any object of subclass, at that time constructor will be called. If constructor is not defined, then implicit constructor will be called and every variable of the object will be initialized with zero value. While here you are passing value, so constructor with a parameter is defined here. So at the time of creating an object of this subclass as, the constructor will be explicit constructor will be called, and this is that explicit constructor. Within this, using this super method, you are calling the constructor of this superclass. You are calling the constructor of this superclass. So here 27 value will be passed to this super method, and this A will be copied to superclass class constructor, and the value will be 20. Value will be 27, right? And then you are calling this through subclass the method of the superclass, because this is inherited. So s dot get A system dot out dot println, the output will be 27. So what is the feature here? The feature here is that the methods, variables, all will be inherited, but constructor will not be inherited. And if in a superclass there is a constructor, so in the subclass there is a constructor, and with the subclass object, if you want to call the superclass constructor, then you will use the super keyword. Now, when I am talking about the type of inheritance, that single level inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, hybrid inheritance. So from the superclass to subclass, the properties and methods are inherited. So at that time, what would be the accessibility of method and variables? For that, access modifiers are there. Use of access modifiers are there. And what are the different access modifiers in Java? I already told you that default, private, public, protected. By using these four default access, the four access modifiers, we control the accessibility of a particular variable and method within a superclass and subclass. So while implementing the inheritance, we use, if any method is in subclass, superclass, and if that is to be inherited into the subclass, you will make that method public, right? If that is default, so automatically that is public, that will be inherited into the subclass, right? If protected, then accessibility of that variable will be in the superclass, subclass, and subclass to subclass, right? So in this way, different accessibility are there, and they are defined with the help of access modifiers, and four access modifiers are there: default, private, public, protected, and we will use as per our requirement. So in the classes, in the today's class, I told you that what is the inner class, right? What is the use of inner class? Okay. Then what are the different variants of inner class, in which what is private inner class, what is the static inner class, then how to access outer class from inner class. Then I defined about the inheritance, in which I discussed in detail about the compile time binding, runtime binding. I told you that without runtime binding inheritance is not possible. Then I told you that what is the difference between object-based programming language and object-oriented programming language. What is the use of this extend keyword, right? By using the extend keyword, you can inherit the values. Then what are the different types of inheritance? I told you that Java does not support the multiple inheritance. If you want to uh, implement the multiple inheritance, then you will use the concept of interfaces. Then I explained with the concept of example, with the help of example, the concept of single level inheritance, how you can define the superclass and you can define the subclass, and the this subclass can have the additional functionality, and it will inherit the copy of the methods of and variables of superclass. Then within the subclass, how you can create the object of the subclass, and you can call the methods, right? Then I told you that the use of super keywords, in which I told you that okay, whenever I'm talking about the inheritance in a program, so then methods, then variables, then nested classes, all these are inherited, but constructors are not supposed to be inherited. If you want through the subclass, if you want to access the object methods and variables of and or inner classes of super classes, then um, super classes, then you can use the super keyword, as well as you can you can access the constructors of the super class using the super keywords. Then I told you that what are the two usage of static keywords, what are the usage of final keywords. So various questions are arised out of you here. And with the help of this example, I told you that how the methods and variables can be overridden into the subclasses, and how the method of the subclass, superclass, and variables of the superclass is displayed, because the methods of the subclass and variables are overridden, so the values will be overridden. So if you want to print the values of the value of the variables of the superclass or methods, then you will have to use the super keyword here, right? Then another invoking super, how to invoke the super class constructor, that I demonstrated through example. So I hope this is sufficient for today, and please note it down the questions arised out of this lecture. So definitely the questions of 10 or 15 marks will be there into the examination. I will continue the same lecture on inheritance. Same topic will be continued in the next class also. And there is a request, please uh, uh, study whatever I am teaching. Please study very carefully. And it's all for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now you can give the
Sir.
attendance.